let's talk about patch 3.1, and it's a big one.
It's a big one. You
Yes.
can almost call it a mini expansion. In a way.
For me, it actually is a mini expansion. We have the 6th Syndicate leader coming. I won't tell you who it is.
Toss the coin.
Right, yeah, I looked at that actually. If I dare to go into my history, if I dare to go into my history, there. Oh yeah, me and the boys memes. Forget about that. There's a reason I'm looking at me and the boy. Loads and loads and loads and loads of me and the boy memes. There's a reason for it. God damn it. There you go. After he said that,
the North, a land of so many realms.
This bit here.
Till now.
So he's not about this bit.
Rivalry set aside, an alliance of coin has been formed.
You see. So, can you tell whose hand that is? Gascon, maybe, because he's like leader of the Strays, which is like a criminal sort of thing. I didn't really think that was true. That's going to happen. I would generally think, wouldn't it just be Dijkstra? Dijkstra's leader, because he's like a spy bloke, right? He's based in Novigrad. It doesn't have to be Novigrad related, but these are the Syndicate of Novigrad, pretty much. I think it should be Dijkstra. Honestly,
Video.
it might even be the artwork from Northern Realms where he's using the chessboard. You know, I'd really like to see that come back as a leader card. Dijkstra moving that piece on the leaderboard. That just sounds great to me.
He tosses the coin in a certain video, so that already gives you an idea. That's a hint. We've tweaked around 256 cards. I don't like to give numbers, but we checked 256. This includes 4 leaders for our favorite faction, aka
This is the bit.
Well, we didn't change 256 for Northern Realms. We changed about 200 for all factions, and the rest are Northern Realms. Yeah,
But 4 leaders.
but 4 leaders.
There you go. He said 4 leaders for Northern Realms. So we just looked at some of the leaders, but the Northern Realms one, there's 4 here are going to change, and I'm not. I mean, she's definitely changing. Kalant's quite new, isn't she? She's the newest one. So would they change her? I mean, she's pretty broad play, but I don't think many people play her. Demoven seems like he would have to stay because charges seem to happen. I mean, she's okay, yeah. A lot of these are okay. You don't see Foltest very much anymore. I got the feeling Foltest would be boost an allied unit by 1 and give it shield, because then it works with shield synergy. Also, things are harder to kill, plus they'll have a shield, so it's kind of like giving it zeal. Not really, but it's kind of like it keeps things safe. Although locks still happen, and so do, like, I don't know, movement still happens and stuff like that. But I think Foltest will probably go to shield, I reckon. Meve seems like she might be really useful with this boosting thing. Like a lot of the cards, or some of the cards we've seen have inspired. With the whole inspired mechanic, Queen Meve seems like she'd be very useful. So, useful but dull. Yeah, but I think it's an opposite of Crush on Crate. So, where Crush on Crate has Bloodlust, Meve has Inspired. So I think she'll probably stay. So if I had to choose 2 that stay, I'd say it'd be Queen Meve and Demavend are the 2 that'll stay. A lot of people, I want King Henselt to stay, but I think a lot of people said they wouldn't dare touch Henselt. He's been like, this is the shot of the game, pretty much. But, I mean, I like Henselt because I think you overwhelm them with orders and, you know, but yeah.
One of things we done is change the amount of cards that damaging. It's much lower.
Okay.
And also change the value of damage itself. It's also lower because we want you to work to remove something, not just play a card and deal 5 damage, remove everything.
I'm kind of wondering how that's gonna. Are they doing anything to Syndicate? Because Syndicate has quite a decent few ways of removing things. Unless they lower some of the Syndicate ways, it's not going to be in balance with everything else. And then also you've got to take into account, well, how's that going to affect bounty? You know, it might not change. They might not change bounty, but since everything's lower value in damage and removal, bounty becomes worse, which means you have to target things which are less base value, which means then you'll get less money from bounty. So it's kind of a nerf to bounty, like a side nerf to bounty by nerfing the damage everything does. I'm not sure. So this sounds fine. This is good, right?
Example, we just.
All right. So the Dumb Banner, it's a good card, right? I haven't seen this card played. I don't even know what it does currently. 5 provisions for 6 value, pretty much. And a bit of thinning is good, right? It's the same as most standard everything else. So it seems easy enough to do. No problems there. Gives targets for certain things, which is nice. So Vest I got worried about here. Now, my first impression was this is just a plain nerf to Vest, isn't it? It's just... I would rather have the 4 damage and 3 health rather than 5 health, 2 damage. But then you've got to consider the wide spectrum of damage nerfs. So it's hard to say in terms of that. Like, you know, this is a nerf to me, but I don't think they're counting it as a nerf because everyone's damage is going down, apparently. So it's going to be harder to remove things. But this means that you're probably not going to be able to remove anything with Vest, and Vest is solely here for the Zeal. Usually, he was right about that. You can't normally use her order because she's dead. But I found that when I play Vest, I use the 4 damage, and then it kind of puts the opponent in a difficult situation because I play her not caring about the Zeal. And if they destroy her, then they destroy her. If they don't, then yeah, okay, I get to use it. And that's how I've always played her. Use her for the damage, and the Zeal is a nice bonus. But now they're going for the Zeal is the thing you want, and the damage is a bonus by the looks of things. So they got rid of all reach, didn't they? Yeah, getting rid of reach is fine. Now, the example they give later on is that one. He seems real good to me. He seems pretty decent. 4 provisions for 4 strength, plus another 2 if you get the hit. Now, he's not going to remove anything, which is what everyone's looking for, but maybe this is just not the right mindset now. Maybe removing things is not going to happen very often, or if you do, you have to, you know, pile onto it. You have to do several damage sources, which might be difficult for cards which boost themselves every turn, like the Skellige priests and stuff like that, you know? It's pretty good. Now, the things you can do with this is obviously lock it or move it to a different row. There's 2 weaknesses. But if you can move it back to the melee row, then you can use its ability. Seems like a reasonably decent bronze.
I think Northern Realms' identity was pretty good. The faction was weak, but it was there.
Yes.
And we just followed the identity, you know. It was greedy faction, and we wanted to stay that way. It's the...
I mean, it is a greedy faction. Do you feel like that was the Northern Realms' identity? I never felt Northern Realms' identity was greedy. I never felt that's what I feel. Okay.
Supposed to be the most greedy faction in the game. So, as I said, we followed the
I thought greedy
rules,
should be a deck type, not a faction type. Feels good, I think. Because from what I can remember, if Pavetta hasn't changed, and the blue stripes and the other thing hasn't changed, then the strategy of copying blue stripes, Pavettering them back into your deck, and then you can use Roach as like a tutor to get one out to get them all out. Now, they are in order, so maybe you have to set up some sort of Zeal if you want to try and make sure they survive. But I like the way it's got 3 different aspects to it, and it's all there. So it's got 5 strength, so really it shouldn't be killable in most ways, especially with the reduced damage. But it's just the 2 damage, and you wanted to get the death blow. But if you can't, it's still not the end of the world. You know, it just means you've got to wait a turn. So you don't lose any value for not getting the death blow, but you risk it. That's all. Kirash is fine, guys. Give adjacent units vitality for the duration equal to their base, each of their base powers. So, I mean, you don't need much to get this value, honestly. You really don't need... I mean, 10... She's 7 strength. That's really high. She doesn't need to stay on the board for this to work. I think that's got potentially to be really good. Those guys, as he mentions, that buff and do damage, like that's one of the easy combos, right? She is very good, easy 13 for 10. Yeah, if you put in just 2-3 strength things, it's 13 for 10. And then, like, if they're the those infantry guys, then it'll be, what would that be? 13 plus 6, that's 19 for 10 if they survive, which means, you know, if they're 3 strength, they might survive and stuff, and then they're going to get raised up. And so she becomes a really good card, I feel like. Even if, I mean, you might have cards which are 7 and 6 value like Nenike and a card like this, you do the vitality on them, and that's an extra 6 and 7 value, 2 per turn. You might not have that many turns, that's the issue, but there's a couple of different ways you could use this. Use it so it combos well with those guys. Also, it makes sure that people like Anna continually are healed. So if someone pings them down for 1, they get healed straight away with the vitality. Hopefully the order of things work. I think it probably would. Or you could just use it on something which has got really high base strength in a really long turn, and it just goes up and 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 up. I feel like she's pretty good. It's possible that boosts outvalue damage, so boosts might become a thing, and then Scorch and Igni start to become a thing, and that's a valid argument, I think, because more boosts. Don't forget, you're just looking at this deck. This deck might be boost heavy, so I don't think Yrden is the correct play. Temerian Drummer seems like a really good card as well. Kind of reminds me of the cultists from Skellige, but obviously not as good because they don't make themselves sort of like difficult to remove, but they work really well. It's surprisingly a simple card,
like
honestly.
So
we've got Warcraft category. It's called Warfare. So he's a tutor now, like he used to be. So basically they've gone back to beta where he can pull Warfare cards, which I imagine are going to be like this. They likened it to Crime for Syndicate. Northern Realms have Warfare. Reinforcements we know is one. There's probably others as well. No, it's just a renamed tactic. Yeah, that's true. I do feel like the Warfare is it's just a renamed tactic. I forgot about that, but yeah, tactic is what we used to have. People are not happy with the bloody fail, I don't think. So I mean, that's a Warfare card. The guy can pull it. If you've got a lot of stuff, it can do high removal, but it's on a special card. But you've got a tutor now, so kind of a odd thing there, but.
Our initial thought was machines will be working with charges. You're giving them charges, they are shooting, yeah? But when all of them were working on charges, it doesn't really matter if you have 1 machine, or 2 machines, or 10 machines on board, because you can give charges and only to a handful of them, yeah?
I think that's a really good thing for him to identify. I think that's really nice of him to identify that, because that's absolutely 100% true. So I'm glad they identified it and are doing something about it. I like this one too. It has a lot of different abilities, but 6 strength, 8 provisions, and it's got zeal, so it works straight away. On the melee, it attacks the unit by 1. It's got 1 charge. But if it's between 2 soldiers, this is why. I mean, well, you say soldiers are going to get removed, but I think it's the other things which are the dangerous things. You can remove some soldiers, and it'll mess up their positioning, which is quite important. It's weird how it's going to work, but it does 2 damage instead. It's a siege engine, which we're not using yet, but we do actually use it, they said. A lot of people are going to be unhappy about this one as well, because the other one was a bit of a big meme. But it kind of feels like that's what it's just a gold version of a bronze thing, isn't it? He insinuated that siege equipment, is it siege engine, is not necessarily always a machine, but it can be a beast. So you might get like a big elephant, and it's a siege engine. That's what insinuated, I think. A big like war elephant or something, and it's a siege engine because it's a big battering ram or something. Next faction is Zeracania with the elephant siege machines. That'd be pretty damn cool. I like the sound of that. Siege Master as well. 3 strength, 5 provisions, boost an ally by 2, so you get the 5 for 5. Resupply. Trigger this ability whenever you play a warfare card. Boost adjacent siege engines by 1. So it's a nice way of getting 5 for 5 automatically, and then getting more value. So there's a bit of sequencing involved. Now, it means you have to have siege engines either side. He is a soldier, so it kind of works with a siege engine crew ability. The correct positioning is soldier, siege engine, siege master, siege engine, soldier, because then it all works out quite well. He boosts the siege engines either side of him. Siege engines have 2 soldiers, one including the siege master in the middle, and it all kind of works out. Now, in practice, that probably won't work. Someone will move something, or someone will do something else, and it just probably won't work. So I think that is too much setup. for the resupply. You might get some value from it, but I feel like it's just not going to be a thing, I would say. But not all siege engines are going to work on charges, and you're saying that's some Exodia level combo. Pretty good if it works. Yeah. But then you have to start playing. Then you have to start playing warfare cards. So it's a lot of sequencing. Like your whole hand is based on this combo. I think it's too difficult, honestly. I like this one a lot because it gave you a lot to do with it. So it's 3 for 5. It's got formation. They're adding more formation in, which means it can be 4 for 5 if you want to do that. And it's got an order to damage it by 1. If it's boosted, then it damages by 3 instead. So you can use it straight away with formation and make it a 4 for 5, or you can put it on the back row and it self-inspires itself, ready for later. Or with the combos we've seen already with Temerian Drummer, if Queen Meve is still in it, there's a lot of different options in order to inspire it. There's a lot of choice with this. I like it. It's not massively flexible. 3 damage can get rid of some things. He might not stay on the board, but he probably will because it'll be a formation to 4. But, you know. And Anna, now someone in my Discord got confused about this, and I don't know if it's common, but she is just straight up better. I don't know if her provisions are the same. I think they probably are. But she's just straight up better. Every allied turn on turn end, you boost the unit to the right. If she's boosted at all, then it boosts adjacent units instead. So it's basically the same as it normally is. She's got to be boosted above 4 by 1 point at least, and then she will boost both sides. But if she's not, she still works like a Temerian Drummer. So a more expensive Temerian Drummer with the potential to be better. I would say that's a straight up buff, which is good. You know, 4 is dangerous, but I think you'd obviously place her down and try and boost her straight away to ensure that she stays alive a bit better.
Right.
Now, this card, I saw this card. What did you guys think of? I thought of the initial Redanian Knight. No, was it Redanian Knight Elect? You know the ones, right? It's got a shield, and when it loses its shield, it boosts out by 2. So you can add another shield onto it and take the shield off, and add another shield to it and take it off, so it keeps boosting itself. I don't think that's a great strategy to do, but it's a way of protecting this card, even though it's not that good to protect. It's kind of like a card that you don't want to touch. So you might get some extra value if you've got like something like a Tin Boy or something that just does AoE, or possibly it could protect from like Harold Houndsnout's skulls. You know, it could just protect from a bit of damage, a bit of random damage. And if it does get hit, it not only protects but boosts itself by 2, and then you can give it to it. So it's a way of protecting against some random damage, which is nice. But there's also another card coming up in a second, which combos with it. It's weird that it's the Damned Sorceress, but maybe not. She's 5 for 5 already, but she can also remove a unit's shield and boost south by 2. So you can remove that shield if you want to just combo it yourself, or you can remove an opponent's shield, which is a really nice strat. So I like the fact that because if she just removed a shield, that wouldn't be very good. But since you've got cards within your own faction which could benefit from that, it is actually quite good. And she seems like she's worth the value as it is, and then removing a shield is really handy, you know. Battering Ram. Order ranged. Move south to the melee row, then damage the highest enemy unit by 3. Crew gain zeal. So if you put it next to 2 soldiers, it gains zeal, then you move it to the melee row. I kind of really like that. I'll tell you why. Because that means as we used to call it, we're going to have to bring back the old terminology of crewman pocket. It actually goes into a crewman pocket, and then it moves forward like a fucking battering ram, which is pretty lore friendly, and it also frees up the crewman pocket again for something else. So that's a really cool thing. If you put your crewman pocket on the ranged, and then you fucking charge it and relieve that crewman pocket so you can use something else. Yeah, I like that. So there's the 3. Crew, Inspired, and Resupply. I like the idea of Resupply, that it gets more value if you play sequence in certain ways. We saw the 2 tags, Siege Engine, which is not used very much, but will do in the future. and also Warfare or Warcraft. Yeah, so my main questions are, which I guess we'll see tomorrow, is how is the damage going to be lowered across the board? Because I have a weird feeling they wouldn't touch Syndicate because they would have planned this out. I feel like they would have planned this Northern Realms business when they were planning Syndicate, and so they probably won't touch a lot of the Syndicate, I would imagine.